Hello everyone, am I audible? Yes, nice. Cool, welcome everyone. Welcome to the first class that is not on object-oriented programming. So today we are going to learn a very popular concept, a very famous concept, which is solid design principles. So yeah, that is the agenda for today. Let us wait for people to join. We will be starting at 9:10 p.m. Okay. By the way, till then, anyone has any questions, any doubts with respect to the previous class or anything? How to make notes of LLD? Sumit, I mean, for now, I think for object-oriented programming, just write the definition of the concept. That's more than enough. Okay, just write the definition of the concept. We are also working on the written notes that might be helpful. But for object-oriented programming, just write down what a particular concept means. That should be more than enough. For your design principles as well, just understanding what a particular design principle says is okay. When we will get to case studies, at that particular time, I mean, just note the best design, note the final design. That's more than enough. Okay. Sagar says he has written notes. Sagar, probably share your written notes to the group. People might be helpful with that. Will we get printed notes? Not printed notes. You are not going to get printed notes. But I am currently working upon. We have just hired one person for this to create typed notes for the LLD thing. Okay, so that is what we are working upon. No time estimates yet, but I'm trying my best to get it as soon as possible. Okay, kind of a reading material, kind of a book by Scalar. We should not include code in notes. Sumit, you can, no problem. But for object-oriented programming, that might not be needed, to be very honest. Okay, I don't think that is needed much. Shubham, you enjoy with that. No need to send that. You can send to Mohit. Mohit is uh, so I and Mohit keep on uh, basically doing random shit with each other. So that is why Mohit did that thing that day. Yeah. How to deep clone effectively? There is an answer. So we have not seen anything. Akash, not really a topic for today. Better to discuss in the language module. It depends upon language to language. Serialization, deserialization, etc. Again, not a topic of objection programming or low level design. But yes, I mean, serialization is one of the very guaranteed way to have a deep clone. Correct. Yes, Scalar's backend is in ROR. Congrats, Sushant. When will be having these language modules? Sumit, so for the first batch, we are starting the language module on 10th. Yes, so for one of the batches, the batch that is just behind you, their LLD module is starting on 10th. Okay. So, I mean, so as soon as your LLD is over, we will probably do the same for you as well. Don't worry. Or worst case, you can get the recordings of that. Okay. By the way, let me send the screenshot to Mohit. Shubham. How will you define design pattern or solid in layman terms? Prince, let us start the topic, then we will start. Let us start the topic, then we will discuss this particular thing. Don't worry, your question will get answered. Till what time these lectures we can access? So, Alok, frankly speaking, officially we guarantee that the access to the lectures will be available for I think 6 months or 12 months after the lecture. But regardless of that, till now we haven't removed the recording of any batch. Okay? So probably for foreseeable future, you will be able to see the lecture recording. Yeah, Mohit is a nice person. Many interesting stories about him. We'll probably discuss sometime. Can it help testers design their own framework? Prince, do you mean solid design principles? Can they help testers design their own framework? Not really. I mean, you cannot design a framework just by knowing solid design principles. You might get an idea on how to design a framework better, but how to design a framework learning that just from solid design principles is not really possible. Okay? So solid design principles are about how a good software should look like. Okay. But still, how to create that software, how will that software work, that is not covered in design principles. Okay. So let us wait for the topic to start, then don't worry, your doubts will get answered. Love, Spring Boot will be covered in LLD and then in project building module. So the Spring Boot that you need to know for interviews, that part will be covered in LLD. You don't need to worry about that. Nice, look. When will that be covered? Anil, do you mean Spring Boot? When will? From the case study classes, right? In the case study classes, we will be using Spring Boot for a few case studies. So there we will be discussing Spring Boot. Also in the schema design class, we will be using Spring Boot. So these two classes. So these will be the places where Spring Boot will be used. Yeah, schema is database design, etc. Karthikeyan, more on that, on the question on how to, there is a section, there is a lecture on how to approach LLD problems. There we will discuss what is the difference between an LLD and a machine coding problem. Honestly speaking, not much difference. Other than that, in machine coding problem, you are expected to write a code, whereas in an LLD problem, you are just expected to do a design. Will this batch split? No. Akash, you will be taught both backend and full stack. Priyanshu, yes, we will be using Hibernate. Will there be Docker Kubernetes? There is one class on containers, uh, containerization in HLD. In HLD. Karthikeyan, I didn't have an LLD round at Google. Google doesn't ask LLD at all. Google, the best way to clear Google is just focus on DSA. Google is not going to ask anything other than DSA. Unless you are applying for L5. If you are applying for STE1, which is L3 at Google, or STE2, which is L4 at Google, you are not going to be asked anything other than DSA. No, Karthikeyan, you don't need that. No, I was not L5. I was L3. I was just about to move to L4. L5 experience is around 0 to 5 years. L5, if you want to apply it, you need to have 5+ years of experience. Okay, Anil's round is there for L5. So Anil, in that particular case, you will be probably having 2 DSA and 2 system design. Is that correct? Yes, right. So for L5, Google asks this. For L4, there are 4 DSA. L4 and L3, 4 DSA. Prince, for which role had you applied? STET. Not sure. They might have asked for STET, but as far as software engineering is concerned, I am pretty sure they don't ask anything other than LLD and HLD for L3 and L4. Okay. Yeah, here I think the Google gives a choice. Either you can take 3 DSA plus 1 system design, or you can take 2 DSA, 2 system design, depending upon your expertise. Okay. That's a fair thing. So, I also, whenever people ask me, right, when they should start applying to companies, I also tell them this: don't start applying to companies unless you have finished at least LLD module. Okay. The reason for this is at least the top startups in India, do ask LLD in their interviews. So if you have finished the LLD module, you are prepared for all the different types of companies, and you might be able to negotiate better. You might be able to demand higher salaries. So that is why, unless you have finished LLD module, prefer not applying. Okay. I mean, Google doesn't repeat a problem that is already public. So, for example, if a problem comes on lead code, Google is not going to ask that particular thing. Okay. But I mean, within Google, it gets repeated a lot. Okay, so I think everyone who had to join this session has joined it. Let us start the class now. Yes, Pratibha, microservices is a part of HLD. Cool. Do we study? Yes, Jehu, we will be doing that. Okay. Yes, Prince, I mean, we will highly appreciate that if you can give that problem to us. Just ping to me or Utkarsh. We will be able to help on that. Okay. Anyways, let us start the session. A lot of off-topic talks. Let us start with the session now. Okay. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the fourth class on LLD. Today we are going to start with the second LLD topic. Till now you have completed one module of LLD classes, which is object-oriented programming. Object-oriented programming has been completely finished. Now we go into second module of LLD classes, which is design principles. Okay. So we are going to have only one class for design principles unless we are not able to cover this topic completely in today's class. I am very much hopeful that we will be able to cover that, but in a rare case that if we are not able to cover that, we will have one more class on solid. So we will be having two classes on design principles. Okay, cool. So let us start the class. So before learning what are solid design principles, let us actually break down this term. Solid design principles has three words. One is solid. We will come to this a bit later. Then the second is design, and the third is principles. Let us start from the end. What do you think this word principles mean? What does this word mean? Principles. What are principles? Principles are rules, or principles are values, right? Moral principles, ethics, human principles. Do you agree that principles are not exactly rules, but they are ethics or values? How many of you agree with this? Principles are ethics or values that you try to stand by. Okay. For example, what can be a principles or what can be principles of good human? It can be that, okay, you should be truthful, you should be honest, you should be nice to others, you should be respectful. Those are human principles, human values. Okay. Now, what kind of principles are we talking about here? Here we are talking about design principles. And what are we designing? We are software engineers, so we are designing software. So here we are talking about software design principles. So I can basically say what are a good principle or what are good values of a great software. What should be some properties or what should be some values or what should be some qualities that a great software should have. So I can say design principles are nothing but qualities that a great software design should have. Okay. How many of you are clear with this statement? That, okay, what does design principle mean? I mean, is it intuitive to now? Principle is nothing but values, qualities, ethics, right? For example, human principles, doctor principles. Similarly, today we are software engineers, so we are talking about software design principles. So we are saying qualities that a great software should have. Okay, but what are these qualities? So these qualities are known as solid design principles. So what is solid? Solid is an acronym for 5 different words. Okay, so what is solid design principles? Solid design principles is nothing but a combination of 5 different principles, 5 different qualities. 5 different qualities that a great software should have. What are they? S stands for single responsibility principle. Okay. O stands for open close principle. L stands for Liskov's substitution principle. I stands for interface segregation principle. And D stands for something that most people confuse. Most people say D stands for any cases. What is D? Okay, so yes, I have gotten the first wrong answer. Thanks, Kapil, for saying that. D is not dependency injection. Many people give this wrong answer. It is not this. It is not dependency injection. It is dependency inversion. D stands for dependency inversion principle. Okay, highlighting it again, D is not dependency injection. It is inversion, not injection. Karthikeyan, we will learn injection today, but it is not injection. Please don't make this mistake ever. Okay, D stands for dependency inversion principle, not dependency injection principle. Is everyone clear till now? So what are design principles? So what are principles? Principles are nothing but qualities. What are design principles? Design principles are qualities of a great software design. And what are those qualities? Those qualities are denoted by an acronym called SOLID. SOLID basically consists of 5 different qualities. What are those qualities? Single responsibility, open close, Liskov substitution, interface segregation, and dependency inversion. Everyone clear till here? After this, we will go one by one on each of these qualities. We will try to understand each of them in detail. But is everyone clear with the overview till now? That okay, what exactly are design principles and what are we talking about in today's class? Awesome. Now let us see that okay, how we are going to approach today's class. We are going to approach today's class via a case study. We are not going to approach these design principles one by one, but we are going to take an example of a case study. Okay? And we will iterate this case study till the end of the class. And by the end of this class, while doing that case study, you would have gone through all of these design principles. Let us see how. So the case study that we are going to do is a very simple problem. It's a problem that actually Amazon asks frequently in their interviews. What is that problem? Design a pen. Design a bird. This is what the problem is. Okay? Design a bird. Pen is a separate interview problem that we will discuss in the course as well. But the problem is that we are going to take as a case study today is design a bird. Okay, what do I mean by this? Let us say you are a software architect. Let us say you are a software engineer. You have to do a design. You have to do class diagram, or you have to represent the different classes or different interfaces that will be involved to represent birds in your system. So again, repeating the problem. Let us say you are a software engineer. You are working on a software system that manages a lot of birds. Okay, so you are working on some software system that is managing a lot of birds. So you have to do a class diagram of how those birds will be represented. Is that making sense? Okay, so let us say you are a software engineer. You are working on a system where a lot of birds are there. Real birds that fly, etc. Okay, you just have to tell how will you represent that bird entity. Is that clear? Is that clear? How will you represent that bird entity? Okay. What is the very simplest answer of this? What is the very simplest answer of this? Karthikeyan, that is also a problem in the class, don't worry. Yes, the very simplest answer is what will be the design? So let us start with V0. The V0 design is, let's see, I have to represent birds. So let me just do one simple thing. Let me create one class called bird. And I will create multiple objects of this class to represent all the birds. How many of you are clear with the first design? That I will just have one class. only one single bird class in my system, and this class will be used to represent all the different birds. For example, if I have to represent sparrow, I will just say sparrow s, or let us say bird sparrow is equal to new bird, something like this. Okay. Now, what do you think will be a few attributes of this class? I mean, let us say I am saying that there will be only one bird class. What do you think will be a few attributes of a bird class? Okay, a bird might have a color. Okay, a bird might have a type. This is very good. I mean, is the bird a crow? Is the bird a sparrow, etc.? It might have a size. It might have a beak type. Okay, so let us say these four attributes for now is enough. Let us also have a weight. Every bird has a weight. Okay, cool. Now, Karthik, and we will get to that. Okay, so let us say for now we say that these are the attributes of a bird. Now, the next question is, what do you think will be a few methods of bird? What can be a few methods in bird? Okay, so a bird can fly. So let us say bird will have a fly method. A bird can eat. So let us say an eat method as well. A bird, let us say, can make sound. So let us say make sound. So a bird class has these three methods and these few attributes. Everyone clear till here? So I am creating a simple bird class to represent all the birds in my system. What am I saying? A bird will have a few attributes and a bird will have these methods, and that is how I am representing a bird. Okay. Okay. Do you see any problem with this? Do you see any problem in this particular design? What? What is the problem that you see? What are the different problems that you see? Okay, so Rohit has identified a problem. The very first problem is not all the birds can fly. Okay, I mean, but if I have a fly behavior in bird class, do you think every bird will have to fly? But I think you haven't missed much, so don't worry about that. I mean, not really. But let us see. Even let us even go a bit ahead. Let us go into detail of this fly method. Let us go into this fly method. Okay, how might this fly method be implemented? I mean, what might the implementation of this method look like? I mean, how might you implement this for fly method? Okay, quick question. Does every bird fly in the same way? Is every bird like crow, sparrow, etc. going to fly in the same way? No. Every type of bird flies in a different way. Can I say this? Every type of bird flies in a different way. Okay. So can I say that probably in my fly method, I will have code something like if type is equal to, let us say, sparrow, do this, else if type is equal to crow, do this, else if type is equal to penguin, do this, etc., etc. Do you think that is how the code might look like? I mean, that is how it will look like, right? If you have a single bird class, how else will you make them fly? I mean, is there any other way to make them fly? I mean, if the design that you have is only one single bird class to represent all the birds in the system, is this how the fly method will look like? If this is the design that I go ahead, that I will have only one class, and that's how the whole system is represented. I mean, Sugandha, we will get to the solutions later. Shanavas, we will get to the solutions later. But do you see that, okay, for the first version, of my design, if I told that there will be only one single bird class and it will have these attributes and it will have these methods, then this is how the fly method will look like. Do you agree that if there is only one bird class in my system having these type of attributes and having these methods, this is how the code inside the fly method might look like? Everyone agreeing to this? Yes or no? Okay. Now, what are the problems with this design? Anything that you see bad here? Anything that you see bad here? Okay. So let us see the problems. What are the problems of this? First of all, let us say there are 100 different birds in my system. Let us say there are 100 different birds in my system. Do you think this code will be readable? Do you think this code will be readable? Not at all. You have so many if else, 100 if else. I mean, understanding that will be very difficult. So, bad readability. Okay. Now, let us talk about good software design. Ideally, whenever you write code, you should also, whenever you write any code, whenever you write any business logic, you should also in parallel write test cases for the same. In parallel, we should try to write test cases for the same. If you remember, or I mean, if you have seen in your normal day-to-day job, ideally the test cases that we write, should they test all the different conditions? Should the test cases that I write test all the different conditions? Yes, I mean, ideally, when you write good test cases, if you want to have a comprehensive test suite to ensure that everything in my code is tested, you should ideally check every path of your code, agreed or not. If you are writing a very good software, a very reliable software, you should test every line of the code. Every path of the code should be tested. So, do you see in this particular case? Kishan, I'm just coming into a particular problem. In this kind of scenario, do you see that testing will also become difficult? There might be one test class which is testing that is a sparrow flying well, is a crow flying well, is a parrot flying well. So the testing also becomes a problem. Okay. Any other problems that you identify with this design? Any other problem? Think of your real day-to-day job. Karthikeyan saying extensibility becomes tough. I mean, Karthikeyan, that is just adding another if condition, right? I mean, if you have to extend, you just have to add another if condition. So it's the problem with that. Yes, I mean, but that is readability. That is readability, right? That is already covered in readability. Next thing. Now, in your real day-to-day job, do you think only one developer will be working on the bird class at a particular time? If a bird class is so big, do you think only one developer will be working at the same time? Not really. Many developers might be working on the same class at the same time. And what will end up happening? Yes, merge conflicts. Let us say one developer was trying to change something in Sparrow. Another developer was trying to change something in Crow. Now they are doing the change in the same file. So when they merge their changes or when they submit their changes, do you see there can be some conflicts? Can there be some conflicts? Yes. So the third problem that comes up is difficult for multiple developers to work in parallel. And this particular design, the very first design that we have, also violate. I mean, it's not Karthikeyan, it's not a concurrency issue. It is more of when multiple developers are actually working on the same code base at the same time. So let us say Karthikeyan, you are also working at the same company, and Shubham is also working at the same company. Both of you are trying to edit something in the bird. When both of you are trying to edit something in the bird at the exact same time, when you submit your code, do you see there can be some conflicts? Shubham told that, okay, there has to be some change here. You told something has to change here. There will be some problems, right? Merge conflict. So that is what I'm talking about, okay? Nishant, but ideally, let us say if these classes were separate, if the code for Crow was in a separate class, then what will happen? One person might be working on a Crow, another person might be working on a Sparrow. The conflicts will be much lesser. Conflicts can definitely happen, but they will be lesser in that scenario. Making sense? Naman, but even at runtime, if we have concurrent requests, Chetan, how is concurrency related here? How is concurrency related here? multiple bird objects calling the fly object. And why is that a concurrency problem, Chetan? I mean, there is no shared variable, nothing is here, right? So, I mean, if each of them is calling on a separate thread, it will keep on working. Okay, so not really a concurrency problem because no shared variable. Concurrency problems come up when there is a shared variable. Is there any shared variable here? Not really. So no concurrency problem as such. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Manish has a question. Isn't the probability of two developers working on same line at same time? Manish, it isn't even about the same line. If two people are working even on the same file, then also merge conflicts can happen. Because finding the difference between two people is difficult for a software. Okay. So ideally, if every feature is in a separate file, it becomes easier for different developers to work. Okay. Clear, Manish? I mean, Shanvas, yes, obviously we can resolve merge conflict, but it is going to take me time, right? Ideally, it will be better if there are no merge conflicts even. Do you agree, Shanvas? Okay, good. Now, okay, so this is another thing. The fourth problem is that this design that we are currently writing violates the very first principle of solid, which is single responsibility principle. So now let us formally define what single responsibility principle is. What is SRP? Single responsibility principle says that every code unit in your code base. Okay. What is a code unit? A code unit refers to a method or even a class or even a package. Any code unit, every code unit of your code base should have exactly one should have exactly one well defined responsibility. Okay. Now, what do I mean by responsibility? I mean, how am I defining the word responsibility here? A responsibility means a reason to change. So I am saying every code unit that is there in my code base, every method that is there in my code base, every class that is there in my code base, every package that is there in my code base, every code unit in my code base should have exactly one responsibility. That means it should have exactly one reason to change. For example, for a bird class, the responsibility, what is the current responsibility of the bird class? When might someone need to make changes in the bird class? When might someone need to make changes in the bird class? Utkarsh, yes. It is also sometimes known as separation of concerns. Yes, one place where you might need to change in the bird classes when probably behavior of any bird changes. Of any bird changes. So even from this line, behavior of any bird changes. This in itself says that bird has multiple responsibilities. It is responsible for how a sparrow will fly. It is responsible for how a crow will fly. It is responsible for how a penguin will fly. It is responsible for how a pigeon will fly. Is that making sense? So the bird class has, first of all, multiple responsibilities in that sense as well. It is responsible for how sparrow will do its work. It is responsible for how crow will do its work. It is responsible for how penguin will do its work. So is the first line clear? Behavior of how any bird will fly. What is the second responsibility of the bird class? Bird class is also responsible about shared attributes of the birds, properties of birds. Okay, shared attributes and methods of the bird. Ideally, if you think of design, which one is a better responsibility for a bird class? I mean, which one should really be a responsibility of the bird class and which one should not be a responsibility of the bird class? Yes, the second one is okay. I mean, if I have a bird class, it should definitely care about the shared attributes. What are the shared attributes of every kind of bird? But within the same bird class, you should not tell how every bird will fly, right? I mean, you should not have code on how a sparrow will work, how a pigeon will work, how a crow will work. Is that making sense? If I have a bird class, a bird should only be responsible for common attributes. Why are you making the bird class responsible for all the specific types of birds as well? Paridhi, for example, the shared attributes and methods can be that every bird has a weight, every bird has a color, every bird has a type, every bird has a size. So just storing the shared attributes and methods that will be there in every bird, and not focusing on the code, on the logic of how every bird will fly. Making sense? Okay. So that means the bird class has multiple responsibilities, and the bigger problem that you see here is that bird class is responsible for behavior of every bird. It is responsible for how a sparrow is doing its work. It is responsible for how a crow is doing its work. So, do you all agree that in the current design, bird class definitely has more than one responsibility? Do you all agree with this? Yes or no? Just say a yes if you agree that yes, in the current design, bird class has a lot more responsibilities. Shanwas, we will get to solution a bit later. We will get to solution a bit later, okay? Give me some time, we'll get to the solutions, okay? Perfect. Now, the question is, today we have not understood the shared attributes, so good sure. By shared attributes or methods, I mean the shared properties that are there in every bird. For example, every bird is definitely going to have a weight. Every bird is definitely going to have a color. Every bird will definitely have a type. It should just be responsible of the shared things. It should not be responsible for the specific things. A bird should be a generalized class rather than a special class. Is that making sense? Okay. But can't we say for every bird we are changing size, so size is also a special attribute? Okay. Rohit, a special attribute or a special method is a method that is there for specific birds. What are general methods? The general methods or general attributes are the attributes that are common amongst all the different birds, that are going to be shared amongst all the birds. So I can rather say common attributes of all the birds. Is that clear? Okay. Can you repeat the first red line? Behavior of any bird. I mean, how is every bird going to fly? How is every bird going to eat? How is every bird going to make sound? That code is also there in the bird class, right, Shanwas? So that's the problem. Alok, we will get to the solution. Wait for some time. Wait for the solution sometime. Okay. So what I have identified is that okay, bird class is definitely violating single responsibility principle. And what does single responsibility principle say? Single responsibility principle says that every code unit, every method, every class, every package should have exactly one reason to change, should have exactly one responsibility. But will the behavior ever change? I mean, Manish, for example, in the current fly method, okay, if you, I mean, let us say sparrows decide to fly in a different way, or you want to add a new bird, then also you will have to change this fly method, right? So now you have to change the fly method whenever you add a new bird, or whenever one of the previous birds start flying in a different way. Is that making sense, Manish? Rohit, we'll get to that. We will get to that. Just give me some time. Okay. Manish, wait for some moments. If it's not clear, after that we'll come back. Okay. Cool. Yes, Vignesh, you are absolutely correct. Just wait a moment. So first point is multiple methods. Second point is multiple cases in a single method. Uh, no. So if I see correctly, here I'm just writing what are the different responsibilities of the bird class in this design, or why is the bird class even existing in the current design? In the current design, the bird class is existing for two reasons. What are those two reasons? One, to store the behaviors of all the different types of bird. How is a sparrow going to fly? How is a sparrow going to make sound? How is a pigeon going to fly? How is a pigeon going to make sound? Is that thing currently being done by the bird class? Yes or no? Is this thing currently being done by the bird class? Yes. The second thing that is being done by the bird class currently is all the common attributes of birds. For example, every bird has weight, every bird has color, every bird has type, etc., etc. So ideally, I'm saying there are two responsibilities. One is definitely a responsibility. This one, the common one. This is definitely a responsibility of a bird class. I mean, bird class should definitely have the common attributes of every bird because the bird class is representing the bird entity. But why is the bird class having the code for how every type of bird will fly? How will sparrow fly? How will pigeon fly? How will penguin fly? How will peacock fly? That is too much, right? There you are doing too much in the bird class. Yes or no? That is what I'm saying. This responsibility still makes sense, but this responsibility probably is not good. Yes, Sriram, same for make sound as well as same for eat. Okay. Before we go to the solution even, let us first try to understand that today I just told you that okay, this is a violation of single responsibility principle. But how will you or how can you yourself identify that there is a violation of single responsibility principle? So, how to identify violation of SRP? So, what are the different ways? The very first way to identify violation of SRP is whenever you see a method with multiple ifs. A method with multiple ifs. Okay. If you see a method that has multiple ifs, it might, it will most likely be a violation of single responsibility principle. It is not always true. There are some scenarios where multiple ifs are perfectly okay. For example, when multiple if else are part of business logic. If else are part of business logic, then probably it is okay. Okay, then probably that is okay. But when multiple if else are just there to have responsibility for different types of entities. For example, here, this if else is completely independent from this if else. Do you agree? That in this code base, only one of the if else is going to be there, and each if else is completely independent, has no relation with anything else. This is not really good. So, whenever you see a problem, whenever you see a scenario in your code base where a method has multiple if else, do check if the SRP principle is getting violated there. Is that clear? The first point clear? Manish, SRP stands for single responsibility principle. SRP is nothing but single responsibility principle. Okay. Okay. Shanvas is saying example of business logic. For example, Shanvas, there might be a logic like uh, given a number x, tell if it is a leap year or not. Tell if it is a leap year or not. Do you think there will be if else here in this logic to check if an year is leap year or not? Will there be if else? Yes. But is this a violation of SRP? Not really, because that is a part of the logic. I mean, if the year is divisible by 4, it's a part of business logic, so it is not a violation of SRP. But where each if else is handling a totally independent thing, I mean, everything is starting a totally different direction of code base, then it is a violation. Clear? Is everyone clear with this? Okay. Then let us go to the second thing. Second place where the SRP principle often gets violated. So this is the first. The second place where SRP principle often gets violated is something that is known as monster methods. Okay. So what are monster methods? Monster methods are the methods that are doing a lot more than what their name is suggesting them to do. Name is suggesting them to do. Example. Yes, I mean, they're doing a lot of things. I mean, they're like a monster. They're just doing everything. That is not even the main responsibility of a particular method. For example, let us say there is a method in your code base which is save to database. Save to database. Okay, and there is a user object that you want to save to a database. And how is this method working? Let us say this method first say string query is equal to something. Okay, for example, select star from xyz, etc., etc. Then it is probably doing some other thing. It is saying that okay, if user u object is equal to new user, something like this. Okay, okay, then you will say u object dot x is equal to user dot x, whatever. Okay, after that it is probably printing something to console as well. Okay, probably it is trying to create a database, so it is saying database db, database connection, connection. Okay, then it has all the logic of creating the database connection as well, everything written within this method. This is not good. See, if to save to database you need to do these things, even if you, even if to save to database you need to do these things, you should not have the code in the same method. Instead, what should you do? Instead, what should you do? Instead, you should refactor it. You should break this into different methods. For example, this is wrong. There can be one method called create query. Create query to save user. Okay. Then there can be another method called create database connection. Okay. Then what can the save to database do? Save to database should just do the operation that are specific to it. All the other things it should delegate. Is that making sense? All the other things it should delegate to the other methods. Okay. So what is a monster method? A monster method, Kishan, you're going to see a very surprising thing in just 5 minutes. Okay. After that, you will hate me. Okay. So what is a monster method? A monster method is a method that is having a code. That is having a code, not just doing multiple things. That is having the code within itself to do multiple things. Instead of having monster methods, what should you do? You should break a monster method into multiple methods, and the original monster method should delegate or should internally call the other methods. Is that okay? Prince, I will get to that very soon. Okay. Now, why do you think this is violation of SRP? I mean, what is another problem that you will get if you have a lot of monster methods? If you have a lot of monster methods, what might suffer in your code base? Repeated code. Prashant is absolutely correct. Let us say tomorrow someone else also wants to create a query to save user. There is some other class that wants to create a query to save user. If this particular logic is written inside a monster method, will that third class be able to reuse this code? Will they be able to reuse this code? No, because this code is not separated out. They will not be able to reuse this code. So if you have a monster method, what do? You actually also end up suffering on reusability. So that is another problem of, this particular thing. Reusability becomes an issue. Reusability is a problem. For example, if I even go to the bird class, let us say there is someone who only cares about how a crow is flying, who is only caring about how a crow flies. Will they be able to just get that code? Will they be able to just get that code, just reuse that code on how a crow is flying? If, the fly method is common. No, because the fly method is shared. So code reusability becomes a problem. If you are not following single responsibility principle, what is another problem? Code reusability. So the problems if you are not following single responsibility principle are readability, testing, multiple developers working in parallel, and reusability. Clear till now? Sumit, don't worry. Anyways, in the written notes, get those checked. Okay. Yes, correct. It will be complex, so it's absolutely correct. Okay. Now, what is the other place where you can see that single responsibility principle is violated? The third place where single responsibility principle is violated, and I am 100% sure that there are around 194 people in the class right now. Almost 100 of you would have done this mistake yourself, and you will be recommending people to do this mistake. You have already recommended people to do this mistake till today's class. What is that mistake? That mistake is where SRP principle gets violated a lot, is utility classes or helper classes. How many of you have done this? Many of you have done this. Let us try to understand. And let me tell you about this particular thing. I also did this at Google. When did I come to know about this? I actually learned this from mistake at Google when I was writing a system I actually created. So I had a logic. Samrat, I will explain that. Don't worry. Okay, don't worry. So I had to implement a system, and I didn't know where I will put a particular class. Okay. So now tell me, whenever you are coding in real world, okay, when you don't know where to put a particular method, which package should a particular method go in, or which class should a particular method go in, or if you don't know in which package should a particular class go in, where do you put that class? Everyone puts that particular class in either common or util or helper. How many of you have done this mistake? Everyone, right? When you don't know where to put something, what do? You put it in common or util or helper. Just by hearing this line, do you think that yes, it is a violation of SRP? That okay, just by hearing this line, that okay, what is the single responsibility of the common package? Okay, quick question. What is the single responsibility of the common package? Nothing. There is no single responsibility of the common package. It is having every junk code. Okay. Now Zahid has given a very, I mean, whenever I say this particular thing, in fact, the exact line that Zahid has just mentioned, I told this to my manager at Google when I got this advice that you should not use utility classes. Okay. And the answer to this is Java has done a lot of design mistakes. If something is being done by a popular language, that doesn't mean that is correct. Okay, people do mistakes. For example, how many of you know that the date package of Java is a super mess? Date and time package of Java is a complete mess. You should not use it. I mean, Java has tried to create date and time libraries like 3 or 4 different times. Right? It's a nightmare to work with. It has issues with time zone, etc., etc. So if Java has done this, that doesn't mean it is correct. Okay. So normally if Java people, I'm not sure how many of you have done this, if Java people actually use date and time in production, they don't use Java APIs. They actually use something called Joda time. I'm not sure how many of you know about this, but there is a very popular package called Joda time that you use instead of using the Java package. Okay. But again, I mean, Utkarsh, the way the methods are, the how they handle time zone, etc., is a complete mess. Okay. Yes, that is why Samrat, in new version of Java, they have created a new datetime APIs, etc. So Java has tried to create datetime APIs almost like 4 times, as far as I know. Initial version was there in Java 1. Then with Java 4 or Java 5, they introduced another version. Then with Java 8, they introduced another version. So multiple things. Okay. So again, you don't need to know about this. The only thing that you need to know about this is if a particular language or particular framework is doing something, that doesn't mean it is correct. People do mistakes, but often if you have a popular package, once a mistake is done, it is very difficult to change that mistake. Okay, because imagine that tomorrow Java decides that okay, we are going to go away with util. Now we will not have util packages. We will have separate package for everything inside util. Do you see that huge amount of code will get broken immediately? Correct? I mean, so many people are using Java util. Immediately, every code base will break up. So that's why it's really a problem. Once a bad design has gone into production, it is very difficult to change it. Okay, Prashant. Okay, again explaining. Now, another place where single responsibility principle gets violated is utility or common or helper classes. Why does that happen? These packages or these packages or classes end up being a junkyard for a lot of unrelated code. Okay, there is a lot of unrelated code in the packages, in the utility classes. For example, if you have a if you have a util class, normally what do people do in util? They put date utils, then they put time utils, then they put, let us say, calendar utils. Every util they put here. So let us think about this util package. Is there a single responsibility of this package? Not really. Not really. It's not really well defined. Okay. But because it is easy to implement, it sounds obvious. That is why many people go with this, but that doesn't mean it is correct. If something is obvious, that doesn't mean it is correct. Most of the places where you will see utility packages, why did they come into existence? They came into existence because it was obvious. Okay. Yes, Sushant, that is why. If you go to the first definition of single responsibility principle, every code unit, SRP principle is valid at every code unit, method, class, package. Okay. Cool. But this is required to avoid code duplicacy. Yes, Suhail, you need to have these common things at a particular place. So where will you do it? You can probably create separate packages. You might have package called, for example, you have your code base com.scalar dot. In that you might have, let us say, date. And within date, you might have your own files. For example, let us say date parser. Then you might have date time zone manager. Then you might create your own package called time. Within time, you might have time zone prefix, whatever. Is that making sense? This is a better design. You will need to think about it, but often you can break your util classes into util packages into such kind of system, where you have a separate package for date, where you have a separate package for time, so on and so forth. Is it making sense? But can I say string utils have all the utils for string? I mean, Rohit, you can say that, not really a problem for that. But ideally, if you can make string utils as well as separated, it might be better. Okay. What is scalar? Manish, this is just, prefix of a Java package, right? In Java, whenever you write a package, it starts something like this, right? com.scalar dot something like that. Nothing more than that. I'm just saying that, okay, there can be a separate date package. In the date package, there will be probably classes or utilities related to date. You will have a time package. In the time package, there will be classes or utilities related to time. That is a better design. Date is a sub package. Yes, Manish, absolutely. Yes, namespace in C#, Prakash, correct. But should we create a new package even if there is a single class? Okay, now coming to one of the most important things that you will learn for design patterns, as well as for design principles, as well as for low level design. There is no single correct answer in programming. So in software design, whatever you will do in software design, be it in LLD, be it in HLD, there is never one single best answer. Every action that you take, every action has a trade-off. Okay, for example, let us say in this particular case, we decide that, oh, Naman has told, let us say tomorrow you go to your company, you say Naman is one of the instructors at Scalar. He told that utility classes are violating SRP. So what do? You say that, okay, next 2 weeks, I'm going to spend my time breaking the utility packages into multiple sub packages. What are you going to get? Is your manager going to promote you? No, right? Your manager is definitely not going to promote you. Why? The thing is, every action in software design has a trade-off. See, if I try to follow every design principle to the core, let us say if you try to follow single responsibility principle to code, what will you do? You will start breaking the classes. Is that correct? I mean, if you have to follow single responsibility principle to the core, what will you do? You will say that, oh, bird class has two responsibilities. So let me break the bird class into two different classes or multiple different classes, and each class having one single responsibility. But then what will happen? Then what will happen? If you break your code base into multiple classes, what might happen? What might happen? Too many classes. Again, the readability is a problem. Again, the understandability is a problem. So, one thing that I will say, solving or I mean, following any design principle to 100% depth isn't practical at all. Isn't practical at all. Why isn't it practical? Because design is also subjective. Design is also subjective. For example, you can technically say, and many people do say that if I go to the bird class has actually 5 responsibilities. What are the 5 responsibilities? Very first responsibility of a bird class is to have the attributes of bird. Second responsibility of a bird class is to have behaviors of bird. The third responsibility of a bird class is to have action of all the types of birds. They are not wrong. It is their viewpoint. So that is why a design is subjective. There is no single correct answer. So whenever you do a design, you always make a trade-off. You have to understand the balance between what is enough and what is too much. Many engineers, when they first learn design principles or design patterns, go too much into depth of it that the code base becomes so much cluttered. There are so many files in your code base that it becomes very difficult to manage. Don't do that either. Is that making sense? Yes or no? So now that is why often the util packages or the common packages, if they are small, they are just having 2 or 3 classes. That's okay. But now let us see the case of java.util. Is java.util okay based upon today's scenario? Not really. Let me show that to you. Hmm. Okay. So this is the documentation of java.util. Can you see that? This is the documentation of java.util package. Okay. What does it say? Java.util package contains the collection framework. So java.util has all the collection classes, arrays, hash maps, sets, linked lists, everything is there. It also has event model. It also has date libraries. It also has time libraries. It also has internationalization. It also has miscellaneous utility classes. That means it has a string tokenizer. It has a random number generator. Does it even make sense? Why not have a package called java.collection, and within java.collection have all the collection classes? Why not have a package called java.date, in that have date classes? At this particular place, it is becoming a mess. But let us say java.util had only 4 classes. Would it be a problem? Not really. That's okay. So that is why I'm saying in your code base as well, if it is a very small thing, I mean, if it's a very 1 or 2 files, it is probably okay. But once it starts evolving into a junkyard, now you are seeing that, oh, everything is going there. That means there is a need to refactor it. Is that making sense? Don't say at the start that, okay, let us not create common because that's junkyard, because Naman had told not to create common. It can become a junkyard. Should you avoid that today or should you avoid that in future is your call. You have to make it based upon your experience. There is no written thing for software engineers in stone that don't do this or don't do that. Okay. Good. And another advice that I will give here, many people say that, okay, I mean, when they create the first time a common package, they say that it is only going to have one class, so it is enough. And what happens 1 year down the line? People, I mean, 1 year ago someone had created that, I mean, I'm just getting a common package because it's only one class, so it's okay, I don't want to have too much files, I don't want to make my code more complex. Yes, what happens 1 year down the line? It becomes a junkyard. Today someone has created it, so now everyone will start using the same. That is the problem. Okay. That is where you have to be attentive, that now it is becoming too much. Now there is a need of reflection. Okay, so that is why I wrote this thing here, because at Google I learned this particular thing, that don't create your util packages. In fact, there are some companies that I know where it is actually banned to create a folder called util or to create a folder called common. It's banned in the style guide itself. That's not allowed. Okay, because they will become a junkyard. I mean, that will happen sooner or later, so don't even create that. Think in advance. Clear? Awesome. So that is the third place where these things get validated. Okay, cool. So this is how you should identify the violation of a single responsibility principle. How? The very first thing is monster method. The very first thing is a lot of if else. The second thing is monster method, and the third place where you can identify that is utility classes. Okay, cool. So is everyone clear with single responsibility principle? What does single responsibility principle say? Every code unit, every package should have very well defined responsibility, that this package is going to contain all the controllers, or this package is going to contain all the entities, or this package is going to contain files related to date, etc., etc. Okay, perfect. So Ankit is going to get fired tomorrow. So when we will meet Ankit in the next class, he will be unemployed. So please start giving him referrals already. It is good practice to have separate constant and duty classes for modules? Is it good practice to have separate constant and duty classes? Sanket, can I unmute you? Not really clear with your doubt. Okay. Hello.
Yes, Naman, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi Sanket. Yeah.
Yeah, hi. So I meant like instead of having the utils and constant files, right? For enter like only single util and constant file for entire application. Instead of that, so let's say application have multiple modules, right? So can we have the like constant and util those classes for separate for each module? The way we have localization can also be part of such thing, right?
Yeah, then
Uh,
don't make it common. Again, don't call it common.
uh,
Probably you can call it string, let us say string locales, something like this, right?
yeah.
You might call it this. Rather than calling it common, call a class specific to the constants that it is holding. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, for example, let us say if you have a class that has constants for all the different types of animals that can exist. Okay, animal constants. So you can say there is a class called animal constants. Okay, we will see these things in a lot of case studies where you have, like, for example, public dog is equal to dog, something like this, right? Public cat is equal to cat. This is better rather than calling a class via an umbrella term.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah. Okay.
I hope your
Thank you,
doubt is
Naman.
answered. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let me unmute Rohit as well. Hi, Rohit.
Anyone. So when you talk about controllers entities, for example,
Rohit, can you just speak a bit louder? You're not really clear.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can.
Yeah, so when you talk about controllers entities for our service class, anything, so controller, for the example, how I'm going to say that it belongs to a single responsibility means
Hmm.
if I'm
I
having
mean,
all the
I mean,
controllers here.
yeah, that is, you are absolutely true. So when we will actually introduce controllers, etc., when we will discuss about package structure, we will talk
Mhm,
about this. There are two ways to create a package structure. One is packaging in the way of controllers, services, etc., which is an MVC pattern. There is a second
mhm.
way to package as well, which is the package by what we say layer. Okay, so there are two ways to package. One is known as package by feature, okay, versus package by layer.
So this could be like vertical versus horizontal kind of.
So let me give an example of the package by layer is all the controllers go in the same package, all the services go in the same package, all the models go in the same package. Okay.
Okay,
Whereas this is used in your Spring Boot, uh, your Django, Ruby on Rails, all of these uses. Okay.
right.
But there is a new way as well, where all the files related to users go in the same folder. For example, user controller, user
Mhm.
service, user repository, then let us say students. Any idea which framework uses this? Any
Mm,
idea which framework uses this?
I don't think so.
Any idea?
Node.js?
There is one. Angular.
Angular.
Angular uses this.
So when
And
we
if
say,
Angular uses it, yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
So when you say user controller, it means all the uh, controller related to user will be in one controller. This is a single responsibility.
correct. I mean,
So,
wait for the class on project structure. There we will talk about it in too much depth. Okay,
okay.
package by feature versus package by layer. That is covered. Okay.
Yes. I just wanted to understand single responsibility. How can you say for
Mhm.
controller service and all? But yeah, maybe.
It's not really. I mean, it's not really. So that is why again I told right.
Uh-huh.
There is no single correct answer. You can say someone can say it is subjective, right? It's 100% subjective. I
Right,
can say
right,
that oh, all the controllers are here. That's a single responsibility.
right. I can say that I'm
Okay.
updating the age of user, so it's a single responsibility. Then could be another
Correct.
thing.
So that can happen, right? So that is why it's a
Yeah,
trade-off. Okay.
right. And are
And
I,
by the way, when I mean, we are already
uh,
talking about this. So quickly speaking, I mean, if you code something in Google, this is not allowed. I mean, this is not advised. You should never package by layer. The thing that is used a lot many times in the outside world, controllers are together, services are together, models are together. It's actually not suggested in the big companies. Big companies actually say package in this particular way.
right, because
Okay.
if
So
we
that
remove,
is why Angular is written in this way. Yeah.
right, so if we remove the one package, we have everything at one place.
Yes, correct. I mean, we will learn about this. We will learn about
Okay,
this. I mean, in the project structure classes. So don't worry about that. Okay.
okay. Thank you, Naman.
Okay. Yeah. There's a question. What about the common attributes that we mentioned in one class, like constant file? Does it violate SRP? So, Amit, that is what I mentioned here. Rather than calling that file, that class as constant, okay, call it, for example, let us say string locales. And then in that class, only have string locales. Have another class called, let us say, animal constants. Then only have animal names there. Something like that, okay? Rather than calling a very undefined umbrella like constants, make it a bit specific. That is what I'm suggesting, okay? Okay, Anil, I will unmute you in just 1 minute. Uh, Amit, is your doubt clear? Okay, awesome. Let me unmute Anil as well. Hello, Anil.
Yeah, hi Naman. I have a scenario like let's suppose we are making a call to an API. So
Just can you please speak a bit louder?
yeah. I have a scenario. Let's suppose we are making a call to one different server. So that is actually giving an exception. So
We are making a. I was not able
okay,
to hear.
okay, we are making a call to a different service that is giving an exception.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that exception is having a different kind of exceptions. Like let's say there are 6, 7 exception types
Mm-hmm.
that server is actually responding. So in our code, how should we handle those? Like let's say based on the exception type, we need to print some message or return some different message to client.
So basically, you are using a third-party API. That
Exactly.
third-party API is throwing some exceptions.
Right.
Those exceptions can be of different types. How to
Yes.
handle that, right?
Exactly. So
Wait
should
for adapter design pattern. This will come up. Okay.
okay, that
This
is
will
what.
get covered. Today we are just learning principles. How to do the things will come via design patterns.
Hmm.
Today we are learning moral values. How to follow those moral values? I
Yes,
mean,
since I mean that is also related to this if else, right? So that's why.
it's not really related to single responsibility principle, very honestly. It
Mhm.
is more of an adapter class. You will create an adapter. That
Okay.
adapter will have multiple sub classes for different kinds of exceptions. Okay.
Okay, fine.
The exceptions that you are interested in. So please wait for that class. Okay.
Sure,
It will get covered.
definitely. Thanks.
Okay. Yes, Sandeep, everything is there. Don't worry. We can use as enum percentage XX class to deliver constants. Yes, Kishan, you can do that, but it's still better to name them something that a person can understand it. That okay, Spring locales. If you just see the name of the class, you can say that okay, probably the locales of the string will be there. Okay, so that is why naming it specific might be better for future code readability. Okay. Now, let me quickly summarize the single responsibility principle. Then we will go to the second principle. What did single responsibility principle say? Let me have SRP summary. So the very first thing is every code unit, single responsibility. Okay. Single responsibility. It should do exactly one thing. Okay. The second thing that we learned, when is SRP violated? What are the three places where SRP often gets violated? What are the three places? If else, a lot of if else, monster methods, and the third one is util packages. Util or common or helper packages or classes. Okay. If you have this situation, monster methods, what should you do? If you have monster methods, what should you do? You should break it into different methods. You should break into smaller methods. Okay. If you have util common helper packages, what is a better way? Still have packages, but probably name them better. Name them, name and scope them better. Okay. And most importantly, yes, Kishan, I mean, in legacy code, it's often difficult to manage. The most important point was SRP is subjective. Okay. Two people might have a different opinion. So please use common sense. Please just try to understand where someone else is coming from, where the thought process of them is coming from. If it makes sense, if you think it will not complicate the design in future, it is okay to have sometimes these things as well when the impact is small. Is that okay? Is it okay? Yeah. I mean, Kishan, yes, you're absolutely correct about legacy code. That is why often migrating a legacy code is very difficult. I mean, it's very difficult to migrate that or refactor that. And that's why many people don't like working on legacy code basis. Okay. Cool. How will we solve the problem? How will we solve the single responsibility principle problem? We will come to that again a bit later. Chetan, you will see another solution as well. We will see solutions a bit later. Okay. Cool. Now, the second problem with this current example is with the current bird class that we have. Like when Google overtake Google Pay, previously it was owned by different company. There in Google Pay, we have few issues. I mean, yes, I mean, Kishan, they have. I mean, normally that is why when Google buys a company, right? The very first thing that they do is they tell the company to write the whole code base within the Google's code base. So many times Google does this. Just buy a company and then ask them to use our own systems. Okay. Anyways, coming back to the design. The very first V0 design that we had was having only one single bird class, which had the different attributes of the bird and which had all the methods of the bird as well. There is another problem with this design. It is definitely violating single responsibility principle, but our bird class is also violating O. Our current bird class or V0 bird class is also violating O of solid. It is also violating the principle O, which is open close principle. Now, what does open close principle say? Open close principle says that my classes or my code base should be open for extension but close for modification. Now, many people confuse this definition. That what does this mean? Open for extension, close for modification. What does this mean? Okay, see. Extension. Do you remember the difference between extensibility and maintainability from the first class? Do you remember the difference between these two? Extensibility and maintainability. What was the difference between these two? What is an extensible code base? What is a maintainable code base? Yes, extensibility meant adding new feature. Extensibility meant adding new feature. And what did maintainability meant? Yes, maintainability meant ensuring current system, ensuring system keeps on working well working well, even when no new requirements. Okay. For example, let us say ensuring that your system is running, ensuring that all the bugs are fixed, ensuring that all the libraries, all the third-party libraries that you rely upon, all of them are fixed. That is maintainability, keeping the system running. Whereas extensibility is ease of adding new features. It should be easy to add new features in your code base. Okay. Now let us come to this particular thing. What does this mean? My code base should be open for extension, but closed for modification. It means my code base should make it easy to add new features. But when you add new features or but adding new features, adding new features should require very less or ideally none change in my already written code base. Okay, written code base. Okay, so what does the open close principle says? Open close principle says that when, first of all, my code base should be open for extension. What is extensibility? Ability to add new features. So the open close principle says my code base should be open for extension, or my code base should make it easy to add new features. It should be very easy to add new features in my code base. But the code base should be closed for modification. What does this mean? When you are adding new features, when you are adding those new features, at that particular time, ideally, very less or almost no code change should be required in the code base that is already there. That means probably when you are adding a new feature should mostly be adding new classes or methods. That's it. So you just add new classes or methods. You don't modify already existing code base, already existing classes or methods. How is it possible zero change? That is why Utkarsh, it is not zero. It is very less, almost minimal change. Only as much as is needed. Everything else should be separate. Is that making sense? Yes or no? Okay. And we will see an example of this. We will see an example of this very soon. First of all, if we follow open close principle, what do you think an advantage I will get? If I follow open close principle, if the way I have written my code base, it is easy to add new features, but adding the new features doesn't require code change, doesn't require change in already existing files. What am I improving? First is testing. Alok is absolutely correct. The very first benefit of this is testing. See, whenever you modify an already existing code base, will you need to write extra test cases? Yes, I mean, whenever you modify a code base, ideally in a good system, if you're working at a good company, you will write new test cases. Correct? If it's a new system, it is a new, I mean, there are new changes there that might lead to bugs. So you will have to write the test cases for the same. You will have to probably modify the existing tests. But if when you are adding a new feature, that is just separate classes, that is just completely separate classes. So no much change in the original code base. So no modifications required there. Is that making sense? Correct, Chetan. Absolutely correct. Okay. Now the same thing I can say. The second thing that is going to happen for, I mean, if you're following open close principle is that no regression. See, if your already existing code base hasn't even changed, do you see that there is very, very less chance that something that was working earlier will stop working? So what is regression? Regression means something that used to work earlier stops working. Something that used to work earlier stops working. So now, if you are not making changes in your already existing code base, don't you think there is very less chance of less regression? Correct, Nikhil? So testing is easy. So no changes in already existing test files. Okay, existing test cases. Okay. Now let us try to see in my bird example. In my bird example, when let us say I add a new bird, do you think I need to make changes in my already existing code base? In the bird example, in the v0 of bird, where is the v0 of bird? The v0 of bird is here. In the bird example, when I added a new bird, do you think it will require me to make some changes in my already existing code? Yes, I will probably have to add a new bird type. I will probably have to add a method on fly. I will have to add another if condition in fly. I will have to add another if condition in eat. I will have to add another if condition in make sound. Okay. Often what you will see is single responsibility principle and open close principle often go together, often go hand in hand. Okay, they are related to each other. Okay, if a single responsibility principle is getting violated, probably open close principle might also get violated. Okay, now coming to the solution of this. How can we solve the single responsibility principle and open close principle both in the bird scenario? Let us go to the v1 of bird. How can we represent this? What changes can we make in my design such that the responsibility of all the different types of birds probably is not there in the main bird class? Yes, we will use inheritance. So we will now say that bird is a class whose only responsibility is to have common attributes of all the birds. So there is a bird class. The only responsibility of the bird class is to have the common attributes and behaviors of all the birds, but not implement anything. For example, in the bird class, we can have all the common attributes. What were the common attributes here? The common attributes were weight, color, type, size, beak type. Weight, color, type, size, beak type. Weight, color, type. Let me just make it better. Type, size, beak type. Okay. And it also has all the methods that bird should have. For example, bird should have eat, bird should have, let us say, fly, and bird should have make sound. But this class, even though it has these methods are there, but implementation isn't there. Methods are there, but implementation isn't there. But they are not implemented. How is that possible? How is this possible? I mean, how can I have methods without implementation? Chetan, we will get to that. That is how we will go to the next principle, right? That is why I have taken this example. One by one, you will see that, oh, even this design is bad. Yes, that is how we will introduce abstract classes. Okay. Now, this is possible by something called abstract classes. So let us just take up a T2 and let us learn about what abstract classes are. What are abstract classes? Okay. Abstract classes are classes of whom you cannot create an object. Okay, probably you don't want to allow creating an object of that class. For example, you can say that even though there is a class called bird, but I don't want someone to create an object of bird. No one should say bird b is equal to new bird. Why? Because probably by itself bird makes no sense. I mean, bird is just a generic thing. I don't want to allow anyone to create an object of the bird class. So I will make that class abstract. Is that making sense? Okay. Now Shanwaz is saying, why can I not use interface? In interface, do we have attributes? In interface, do I have attributes? No. So you use abstract classes when you probably also have attributes. Abstract classes allows you to put attributes in your abstract class. Okay. I mean, in C# you can have, but probably okay. If I talk about, in Java it's not. In Java there can only be static attributes. Okay. In Java there cannot be non-static attributes in an interface. Correct? Yeah. So in Java it is different. We will discuss all of those later. But Karthikeyan, yes, you can. You cannot do that. You cannot create an object of interface. You cannot do something like, let us say if there is an interface called runner. Let us say there is an interface called runner. You cannot do runner r is equal to new runner. No, you cannot do this because runner is just an interface. Runner is not a real class. Okay. Yes, Manish, I will help you understand intuitively. Don't worry about this. So, when will I use abstract classes? There are two reasons when you use abstract classes. The very first reason is when you don't want to create objects of a particular class. Okay. When does this happen? This often happens because of two reasons. The very first reason that this happens is you are only going to create objects of its child class. You are only going to create childs of it. You are only going to create objects of its child class. Okay. For example, you might say something like bird b, or let us say user u is equal to new student. Now you say that, okay, there is a class called user, but that user class is abstract. You can never create an object of user. You cannot do like this. User u is equal to new user. Why? Because probably user in itself makes no sense. But user as a student does make sense. So what do you want? You only want to allow creation of objects of the child classes. So what do? You make the parent class abstract, so that people can never do user u is equal to new user, because in itself a user doesn't make a sense. Okay, because in itself a user doesn't make a sense. But won't compiler throw error? Karthikeyan, let me unmute you. Karthikeyan, what do you mean by that?
Hello. Yeah, hi Naman. I
Yeah.
understand that abstract classes are different from interfaces. They have attributes, but incomplete methods where we can own implement in their other classes when we are extending them, right? So I understand that. But the thing is, like when we saw a compile time thing, right? User U is getting binded to new student, right? When compiler sees this, you said the left side of it will be user U, right? When compiler sees this, it will think, right, we are trying to create an object of user class only. Won't compiler throw an error if we bind like this, seeing it's an abstract class?
Okay. Here, are you creating an object of user? At this particular place, are you creating an object of user?
No, no.
No,
But
you're just telling that this is a variable that can store objects that are users. That means that are either the objects of user class or an object of a child class of user, correct?
yeah, exactly. But there is a possibility that compiler can think, right? We would be creating user objects itself. That won't the compiler restrict?
So that compiler will restrict when you are calling new user. That is what compiler will restrict, because that is where you are creating an object of user. When you are just creating a variable, you are just creating a variable, right? You can even put a student there. You can even put a TA there. You can even put a mentor there.
Okay, so when I define abstract class as a user, and when I'm doing a student, right, it won't throw an error. Compiler will because the class I'm binding would be a
Correct.
student one. Yeah, got it.
Correct. Let me show this example. Um, can everyone see my screen? Can everyone see my screen? Awesome. Perfect. So what I'm going to do is, this was the user case that we had already. Right? Yes. So we had a user class. Then we had multiple child classes of this. Okay. So let me copy all of these and let me create another package. And this package is abstract classes. In the abstract classes package, let me just paste all of them. Okay. Now there is only one change that I'm going to do, and the change is that I will make this user class an abstract class, public abstract. That's it. If I make this class abstract, now if you go to client, you can never say user u is equal to new user. You can never call new user constructor. Is it making sense? No, Prakash, that is not needed. That is a confusion that people have. No, there can be an abstract class without abstract method. Is that clear with everyone? User is abstract. Can you read this? User is abstract. It cannot be instantiated. So you cannot create a new object of a abstract class. So if I try to run this program, it will throw an exception because user is abstract and you cannot create an object of an abstract class. Okay. Kavita, I will get to that soon. Okay. Okay. Now, even though I cannot create an object of user, but can I still put something in a variable of user? Can I still do something like user u is equal to new mentor? Can I do this? Yes, that is perfectly okay. Because here you are creating an object of what type? Here you are creating an object of what type? Of mentor. You're not creating an object of user. Creating an object of mentor is allowed. Mentor is not an abstract class. Okay, but creating an object of user is not allowed. Okay, so if I run this program, that is going to run perfectly fine. Okay, but cons will execute for user. Why? Where is cons? Yes, I mean the constructor will still be there. I mean, see, the constructor is still there in the user. The only thing is that constructor cannot be called. It's not allowed to call that constructor. The reason for constructor to exist is to be used by child classes. Okay, the parent can still have a constructor. The only reason for the constructor is so that the child classes can use that constructor. Okay, if they want to call super method.
Naman, here I have a doubt. The thing is, you are having a definition for why do something, right? System.print. Why? How is it allowing in abstract classes, right? Everything you
So
have.
that is why I'm saying. I never even called about abstract method till now. What was the first reason of creating abstract classes? The first reason of creating abstract classes was when you don't want an object of a particular class to be created. And when does that happen often? That often happens because of a parent-child relationship. Parent is just an umbrella term. You want to store the objects of child as a parent, but you don't want to create an objects of the parent directly. So what do? You make the parent class abstract. Is that making sense?
Yes, that is making sense. But yesterday there was a change email method in the overriding concept which we discussed earlier, right? Would it make like the change email or any common method not usable if
No.
we do?
Nothing. The only thing is you're not going to be able to create the objects. That's the only difference.
Got it. So change email, students, TAs, mentors can able to access. Yeah.
Everything can happen. For example, clients can still change the email. After this, you can say user dot. You can call all the methods on user. Change password, change email, everything you can do.
Got it.
Yeah, okay. So that you can do. Okay, now quickly going back and summarizing this particular part, what I just told in the doubts. Okay. Can you see my iPad? Can you all see my iPad? Okay. What are abstract classes? Abstract classes are just the classes of whom you cannot create an object. That's the only thing. You cannot create an object of a child class. Now the question comes up, why might you even need that thing? Why might you even need a class for which you cannot create a child class? Or for which you cannot create an object? Sorry. Why do you even need a class for whom you cannot create an object? There are often two reasons for that. What is the first reason? The very first reason is you are only going to create objects of its child. For example, often there is a scenario where the parent class, this happens where parent class is just like a stamp. Just like a stamp. Okay, what does this mean? You want to hold the child, you want to hold objects of child classes in a variable of parent class. So for example, let us say I decided that, hey, a user by itself doesn't make any sense. User by itself makes no sense at all. There is no reason to create just a user. You can create a student, you can create a mentor, you can create an instructor, but creating a user makes no sense. So what will you do? You will make the user class STEM. You will just make a user class abstract. So now, will anyone be able to do this? User u is equal to new user. Will they be able to do this? No, they will not be able to do this. But because user class is abstract, you can never call a constructor of a abstract class. Okay. But can I say user u is equal to new mentor? Can I still do this? Yes, that is going to be okay, because here the object is of mentor class, not a user class. Similarly, can I create list of users is equal to list dot of, let us say, a new student, a new TA. Can I do this? Yes, that also you can do. Here, are you creating an object of user? No, you are only creating objects of student or TA. That's perfectly allowed. Is that making sense? Is that making sense? Why might I need those kind of classes? Often the thing is, in parent-child relationships, when a parent is just a dummy class, it makes no sense. For example, you will see in Book My Show that I will have payment object and there will be multiple subclasses of it. For example, there will be a subclass called credit card payment. Then there will be another subclass called debit card payment. Then there will be another subclass called cash payment. Do you think I need to ever create an object of payment? Only payment. Does it even make sense? Having an object of only payment? No. It is just going to hold the common variables. You are always going to create an object of either credit card payment or debit card payment or cash payment. So that is why you will make the payment class abstract. Manish, does this help you? Does this example help you? Yes, Sagar. Creating an object means calling the constructor directly. Okay. How memory gets allocated in case of abstract classes holding the reference? I mean, Sanket, it is absolutely the same. Abstract classes can have a constructor. Everything will be there. No difference at all. The only difference between an abstract class and a normal class is you cannot directly call the constructor of an abstract class. That's it. Okay. The constructor of an abstract class can still be called by the child. How will child call a constructor of an abstract class? By super. Client child will call the constructor of an abstract class by the super. Okay. So what is the use of constructor? Prince, is your question clear now? What is the use of constructor? So for example, let us say, can you see my screen? Okay, cool. Let us say user. To create a user, there is another variable which is private string user type. And how are you getting this user type variable? You are getting this user type variable via the constructor of user. So you have a constructor of user which takes a string user type. And what does it do? It just says this dot user type is equal to user type. Is it okay till now? Is it okay with everyone till now? Yes or no? Okay. Now, can anyone directly call the constructor of user? Can anyone? I mean, can I do from my client something like user u is equal to new user something? User u is equal to new user and something? No, I cannot do that. That is not allowed. So, but when will this constructor be called? This constructor might be called from instructor's constructor. For example, in the constructor of instructor, I will call the constructor of the parent. Okay, I will call the constructor of the parent with what argument? Instructor. Is that making sense, everyone? Okay, awesome. Cool. So that is the Sariq, your question will also be answered very soon. Just give me a few more minutes. Okay. Now, correct, Shanawaz, absolutely. It is exactly same as a normal class. In terms of memory, it is absolutely same as normal class. The only difference is you cannot create an object of a class. Wait, that question is there. I am going to cover abstract class versus interface. Don't worry. Okay, should we take a break? Many people are suggesting a break. Okay, so let us have a break till 10:50 p.m. Let us have a break till 10:50 p.m. We will be back at 10:50, and then Uh, we will finish this particular abstract class concept, and after that we will also finish your open close principle, and we will solve the code. Okay, we will see if we can go to Liskov substitution principle, because all the other three principles are very small. We can cover them in the next class as well. That's not a problem. Okay, so we will probably end up having a second class of solid as well. Let us see how it goes. Okay, so break till 10:50. Okay. Hello everyone. Am I audible? Awesome. Okay. There was a question by someone. The question was by Navajit. Can you repeat on what happens on calling a default constructor of a child class of an abstract class? Navajit, same. I mean, the default constructor as it happens of a normal class. The default constructor of a child class will try to call the empty constructor of the parent. Yes, Jayesh, the screen is shared. Okay. It will try to call the empty constructor of the parent. If there is no empty constructor of the parent, I mean, then you will have to specifically put in the constructor that which constructor of the parent should be called. Okay, same as how it happens in a normal constructor. Clear? Navajit, is it clear? So how it happens in a normal constructor, same thing, no difference at all. The only difference, that is why I'm specifying, the only difference between an abstract class and a normal class is, can you create an object of that class? That's it. Okay, cool. Now, uh, let us go ahead. Uh, can you see my screen? Anil, you cannot do that. You cannot do that. That will not work. Okay. I mean, from the constructor of a child, you need to call the constructor of the parent via super only. That's the only way that's going to work. Okay. Nikhil, we haven't gotten to the solution yet. We haven't gotten to the solution yet. Wait for some time. Okay. The second reason why you might want to, the second reason why you might not want to have an object of a particular class can be, why not objects of a class? The second reason for this is, the first we already know that, okay, makes no logical sense. Okay. The second reason is, when we don't want to implement one of the methods in the class. And want to force our children to implement them, and want to force our child classes to implement them. Okay, what does this mean? So let us say, let us again go back here. When we don't want to implement at least one of the methods, correct? When we don't want to implement at least one of the methods. Okay, for example, let us say, can you see the screen? Okay, so let us say in the user class there is a method called let us say something. Okay, now you don't want to implement say something in user. Okay, because you don't know how every type of user will say something. Okay, so what do? You say that, okay, I don't know how will say something be implemented. It must be implemented by every child class, but I don't know how. So I will not write any code here. So what will I do? I will delete this code and I will directly put a semicolon here, and I will declare this method as abstract. This is an abstract method. What is an abstract method? Yes, Sagar, that is same as a virtual method in C++. An abstract method is a method with no implementation, just declaration. Now, all the child classes, instructor, mentor, and student, will be forced to implement this method. Otherwise, the program will not even compile. Let me just run this. If I run this right now, you will see instructor is not abstract and does not override the abstract method say something. It must override the say something method. Okay. Yes, Prashant, it can do that. Okay. Cool. Okay. Now, if I go here, that means in my instructor, I need to write a method called say something. So where is say something? Okay. And I will say something. What should an instructor say? What do you want an instructor to say? Solve your assignment. Okay. Solve your assignments. Now, for a mentor, what do you want your mentor to say? Let us say in mentor also, I will say something. What will mentor say? Reschedule the session. Okay, reschedule the session. Cool. Okay. Then let us say we go to student. But now let us say for student, we don't know what will I implement. Okay. In student, I don't know. I still don't know how should say something work. Can I do that? Can I say that, okay, in student, I don't know how say something will work, so I will leave it alone. Can I do that? No, I cannot. The only way to do that is if I don't want to implement this method in the student class, the only way to do this is I will have to declare the student class as well as an abstract. Okay. If I declare student class as an abstract, then I can leave the method as non. Then I can leave the method without implementation. Otherwise, I will have to implement. Okay. Is that making sense? If I make the student class abstract, then I can say that I will not implement it. And in that case, who will implement it then? If I have made student class abstract, then who will implement the do something method? The childs of student, the children of student. Okay. Otherwise, can the implementation be empty? Yes, Prince, that can be empty. It is still an implementation, right? So do something. In the do something thing, say something. In say something, I'm just doing nothing. That's okay. That's perfectly okay. Okay. Awesome. Yes, Shiva, absolutely same. There is a question. Although objects of abstract class is not created, but why is its constructor called? Rakesh, because if there is a child class, of that abstract class, to create an object of child class, you do need to call the constructor of the parent class, right? That is why. Clear? Okay, cool. But when we don't want to do anything in the say something, isn't it bad design? Yes, Shanwas, we will get to that. That we will come to in Liskov substitution principle. So wait for that, okay? Can the reverse be true too? When we want to implement a method in interface, because all the implementation will have the same code, so we write common code in interface and make it abstract. Sadiq, that is doable, but that is not allowed. You should not do it, okay? Ideally, you should not have default implementations in interfaces because that doesn't make much sense and is error prone. I will get to that very soon, okay? I will get to the default implementations of interfaces at a particular place. Okay. Ideally, it's not a good suggestion to have default implementations and interfaces. That can lead to multiple issues as well. Okay, cool. Now let me quickly. This is not going to compile. Why is this class not going to compile? Any guesses? If you were attentive in the class, you will be able to get. Why is this class not going to compile? I haven't called the constructor of the parent. In the mentor, I have to call the constructor of the parent, right? Otherwise, it will not work. In the mentor, I will just call constructor of parent via mentor. And similarly, for student, I will call the constructor of parent. I will call the constructor of parent via. Why is it 23? Utkarsh. See, does the parent class have a constructor? Does the parent class have an empty constructor? No, right? If the parent class doesn't have an empty constructor, didn't we discuss that in the object-oriented programming class that in your child classes you have to specifically mention which constructor of the parent should be called? Did we discuss that? That is the thing. That is the exact thing that is happening here. Okay. Cool. Awesome. Okay. So this is the thing. I think this is going to work perfectly well now. Let me just run the client code. And it's going to work. Why is say something not working? Solve your assignments. Okay, it's working, right? Solve your assignments is there. Clear? Is everyone clear with abstract classes? Okay. So in future, if in future a change is requested that we don't want to say something, like for users who are just listeners, Utkarsh, ideally for that there has to be some other kind of changes which we will see in the coming design principle. So wait for some time. Okay. Wait for some time. Okay. Now, coming to back to my iPad, Java 8 allows implementing static methods in interface. Is it different from hidden methods? Yes, Kavita, it is different. I am going to discuss that in one of the classes, but wait till then. Okay. Cool. Now, these are the two reasons why you might create abstract class. You don't want to create an object, or you might not know how to implement a few methods. Okay. Then the second thing is that how are abstract classes different from interfaces? The difference between abstract class and interfaces is, in an abstract class, can you have attributes? Yes, abstract class can have attributes, whereas interfaces, no attributes. I mean, interfaces can have static attributes, but I mean, for now, ignore that. Static attributes have a totally different purpose. Okay, don't ignore the static attributes for now. Static attributes are not object attributes. Static attributes are not entity attributes. So here I'm talking about entity attributes. Okay, is that making sense? Okay, awesome, cool. Now, then the second thing is, in an abstract class, how many abstract classes can you extend? Only one. Only one extend. Whereas how many interfaces can you implement? Any number of interfaces. But now, how should you choose whether to go with an abstract class or with an interface? Why are classes there? I mean, what is the purpose of classes? Classes are blueprint of entities. Classes are blueprint of entities. So when you are representing entities, when you are representing the things that have a physical existence, use abstract classes. Whereas interfaces are used to represent behavior. Interfaces are blueprint of a behavior. So when you have to represent a behavior, go with interfaces. You should use the third point to decide whether to go with an abstract class or with an interface. If the thing that you are implementing, okay, Shanavas, if the thing that you are implementing is a physical entity, for example, it is a bird. Now, is a bird just a behavior? Not really. It is an entity. It has a physical significance. It has attributes. It has methods. So you will use abstract class. Whereas, let us say there is a behavior. There is a behavior called, let us say, runner. Now, this runner is not a physical existence entity. It is just anyone who has a run behavior. So for this, I will go for interface. Utkarsh, I didn't create a class for say something. I created an abstract class for user. I created an abstract class for user, not for say something. Even though say something is a behavior, but the abstract class is not say something. Abstract class is user, okay? And user has a physical existence, okay? Okay, there's a question by Utkarsh Chauhan that, okay, the third point is not clear. Okay, Utkarsh, let me explain the third point again. The third point says, the purpose of classes are to represent physical entities. The entities that have some attributes as well as the behavior with them. That is why you should try to use an abstract class whenever you are representing a physical entity of which you don't want to create an object. For example, like a bird. Whereas when you are just representing a behavior, then you will use an interface. Is that making sense? Okay, cool. But interface has also been used for entity. I mean, Utkarsh, it can get used. But that is the ideal difference. Okay. I mean, still you might want to go with interface because of these two purposes. Okay, there might be situations where even though it's an entity, but because that entity has no attribute, let us say there is one entity which doesn't have any attributes, then which one will you prefer? Will you prefer an interface or an abstract class? Then you might prefer interface. Why? Because people can implement any number of interfaces. So for those kind of situations, interfaces are better. So how to make a decision? The decision making, the simple thing is, if attributes plus behavior, then go with classes. Okay. Else, I mean, if only behavior, what should you go with? You should go with interfaces. Is that okay? Can we have an abstract constructor? No, I don't think. I'm not sure. Can we have an abstract constructor? Never did that. Abstract. I mean, why will I don't think that is allowed. Yeah, abstract is not allowed. No, I mean, even though constructor is like a method, it's not really a method. Constructor is a special method. You cannot use an abstract keyword with constructor. You cannot use an abstract keyword with constructor. Okay, because see, can you override a constructor? You cannot override a constructor, right? So that is why you cannot use I mean, abstract keyword with a constructor. Cool. So now, once we have learned it, correct, Akash, absolutely correct. Now, once we have learned about abstract classes, now let us try to improve our design. So what do we say is currently my bird class was having a lot of responsibilities, and due to that it was breaking the single responsibility principle as well as it was breaking the open close principle. So what is the decision that we made? We told that let us create the bird class only for common attributes. So in my bird class, let us only have the common thing. So what are the common attributes of bird? The common attributes of bird are weight, color, type, size, beak type. Weight, color, type, size, beak type. Okay. Now, tell me, should bird be an abstract class? I mean, it's a V1. It's a V1 only. I'm just continuing the V1. Should bird be an abstract class or should it be a non-abstract class? It should be an abstract class because by itself, then bird doesn't mean anything. Okay. Now, a bird also has methods fly. It has method called eat. It has also method called say something. And each of them are what kind of methods? Each of them are abstract methods. Each of them are abstract methods. Why they are abstract? Why they are abstract? Why they are abstract? Because every child of them will do this behavior in a different way. For example, if we talk about say something, in the case of user, was every child saying something in a different way? Was every child saying something in a different way? Yes. Now, because we don't know the common behavior of everyone, let us say we are saying that all of them are abstract, so that every bird can tell their specific behavior of that particular thing. How do they fly specifically? Okay. Can we put these behaviors in an interface? Sagar, we will get to that soon, one by one. I mean, we are going to iterate over this design. We will learn all the design principles via this same problem. Okay. So it's going to be an interesting case study. Is eating not common? Okay, so Karthikeyan is a good suggestion. So Karthikeyan is saying, let us say fly is a behavior that is different between every bird, whereas eat and say something is, let us say, common. Let us say every bird says the same thing, which is, let us say, I mean, cow, whatever. Okay, and every bird eats in the same way as well. Then what are the different abstract methods that will be there? Then which will be the only abstract method that will be there? Fly. Okay, so quickly repeating, we have an abstract class bird which has all the attributes that are common to every bird. Attributes that are common to every bird. Okay, it has one abstract method. Why? Because every bird flies in a different way. And we have both of these as non-abstract because every bird eats and says in same way. Every bird eats and says in same way. Clear till now? Arvind, we will get to that. Currently, that is not the requirement. We will get to that, okay? Wait for the other requirements. You're going to get to a very interesting situation very soon. Those classes should be abstract in turn again, right? Arvind, unless they are implementing the fly. I mean, if the child classes implement the fly, then they don't need to be abstract, right? Abstract method implementation is optional. Sagar, abstract methods always have no implementation, okay? In the parent class, if you're declaring them abstract, you cannot have an implementation for them. Okay, cool. Now, what is the second decision that I make? Now I decide that every bird, every specific type of bird will be a separate child class. There will be a separate child class for, let us say, pigeon. There will be a separate child class for crow. There will be a separate child class for, let us say, your hen. There will be a separate child class for uh, sparrow. And each of them will internally have to do what? Each of them will internally have to do what? I mean, they definitely are extending bird. I mean, each of them are definitely extending bird. But internally, they also have to implement fly. They have to implement the fly method. Why do they have to implement the fly method? Why do they have to implement the fly method? Because fly is an abstract method. Okay, cool. Now, let us check if we have solved this single responsibility principle. Yes, bird is an abstract class. I mean, if a class has an abstract method, it is definitely an abstract class. Karthikeyan. Shriram, it will go to an interface, but it will go in the next iteration. It is just V1. We will go to almost like V6. There will be 6 iterations of this design. So wait for this. Okay. I mean, all the things that you are saying, you are absolutely correct. You are absolutely correct with that design, but everyone doesn't know about those constraints already. We will get there. Okay. Correct, Karthikeyan. Absolutely correct. Okay. Now, so interface is complete abstraction while abstraction class is partial. Correct. Of course, you are absolutely correct. Okay. Now, let us go ahead. Let us see, have we solved SRP? In this particular design, have we solved SRP principle? Yes. Now the bird class. What is the only responsibility of the bird class? The only responsibility of the bird class is common attributes. The bird class is only having common attributes. What is the responsible of each of the child classes? Each of the child class is responsible for specific type of bird. For specific type of bird. Okay, so definitely SRP is solved. Next question is, have we solved open close principle? Have we solved open close principle? Yes. Now when you have to add a new bird, what is the thing that you have to do? When you add a new bird, what is the thing that you have to do? Just a new class. You just create a new class. So let us say tomorrow you have to add, let us say, uh, a bird called owl. So you will just create a new class owl and implement the fly method there. So have the first two principles been solved? Are the first two principles solved? Yes, we have solved SRP as well as we have solved open close principle. But life would have been so easy if the design would have been so easier. Comes another problem. How open close principle, can you tell again? Okay, Prince, if you see now, when I have a new feature, let us say new feature requirement is to add a new bird. To add a new bird, do you have to change anything in my existing code base? No, I just have to create a new class, and in that new class, it will work. Okay. Here. Okay. Okay. Now the question by Sagar and Ved, that okay, that means if there are 100 different birds, what will happen? What will happen? Okay, so Navajit, I will take up your question. That means you will have 100 classes. But that's okay, right? If there were 100 birds, anyways, you had to write the code somewhere. You could have either added it in if else, or you could have added it in new class. New class is much more easier. You have to write the code somewhere, right? Will you write it in the bird class or will you write it in a separate class? Separate class is much more cleaner interface, so that is why it's okay. But yes, single responsibility principle, following it always has a disadvantage. When you follow SRP, that is why I mentioned it a bit below before. When you follow SRP, you end up creating a lot of classes. That's the trade-off. A lot of classes. Okay. So that is why don't overdo anything. Don't overdo single responsibility principle. Okay. Okay. Yes. Everybody is doing yes, correct, sir. Good. Now there's a question. but to add a new behavior to bird. Okay, so Navajit has a question that let us say now every bird has another behavior. Navajit, is it a common behavior or is it a different behavior? Is it a common behavior or is it a different behavior? I mean, is it a behavior that is common to all the birds or is it a behavior that is going to be different in all the birds? Common. Navajit, if it is a behavior that is common in all the birds, then you will just create, let us say birds can now sing. So you will just create a sing method and you will just implement it. Simple, right? Then just add in the bird class, implement it. Okay. I mean, obviously you have to open the code of bird. It's not like saying that, okay, you have to completely lock it. This is a change. This is not really a new feature. It is a modification of an already existing feature. That in a bird, we have a change. So, I mean, if you have a change with respect to bird, obviously you have to open the bird. Okay. Okay. All the bird classes need update. But yes, I mean, Navajit, I mean, if the behavior is different in all the birds, then you will have to do this trade-off. No better option. I mean, then you will have to go through all the birds and then implement that. No other option. Okay. I mean, Rohit, I mean, see, again, not very strongly defined, but I can say that, okay, it's a modification, it's an update to an already existing feature, which is birds. That's fine. Okay. There is no way to reduce number of classes, no, Sagar. In this particular scenario, there is no way. And yes, Prashant, we are going to solve that problem. That is also going to be one of the problems till we get to V6. Till V6, you're going to see all these problems. Okay, don't worry. Jayesh, ideally, you should not go with default implementation. That will be covered very soon. Okay. Okay. Now, life doesn't just end here. Okay. What do I say is that after this, see, wait, I mean, if you have a new requirement with respect to bird, I mean, that is obvious that you will have to make change in bird. I cannot say that it's a violation of open close principle. It is a change that is very specific to bird, so you have to go with it. Okay. Open close principle doesn't say that, okay, once you have written the code, now just keep it locked and be done with it. That is not what it says. It says avoid irrelevant updates. That's the only suggestion. Okay? But if we create implementation at runtime instead of compile time, I mean, Utkarsh, how will you do that? How will you create implementation at runtime? I mean, but yes, that has a lot different kind of issues, right, Utkarsh? I mean, there you are still putting it in some class. Might be in ByteBuddy, but you are still putting it somewhere, right? Using reflection to do that. Not really performant, all those things. Correct. If we have one bird only who can sing, then what would be Rohit will get to that. We'll get to that. Okay. Okay. Now, the question is, this is dangerous, right? One change in abstract class can break all the classes. Sagar, what change? No, Ankit. I mean, it won't be that bad. I mean, see, in an interview, it is expected that whatever design you make, you give justifications for the same. You tell what are the trade-offs that you are handling. Be very clear that if I'm making this abstract class, this is the trade-off that I'm doing. Every design decision is a trade-off. There is no perfect design decision. Just explain the trade-off that you are handling and you are okay. I mean, yes, Saga, that is going to be, I mean, see, if you are adding a new method to bird, aren't you indirectly saying that has to be there in all the birds? I mean, even if there was only one class, then also when you would have implemented that method, let us say there's a method called sing, then also you would have implemented it for all the birds, right? If type is equal to this, etc., etc. I mean, now the only thing is code is segregated. That's the only thing. Okay. Should we directly go to the last version? No, Anil. Otherwise, you will not have the learnings. You need to go version by version to see what are the problems at every step. In interviews, should we directly go to the last version? You can. In interviews, you can directly go. So how will you go in an interview? We will discuss this when we will discuss a problem called design a pen. Okay. In design a pen, we are going to approach how you approach in an interview. But in today's class, we are going to approach one by one version so that everyone has clear. What is the trade-off? Amit, as Kash is saying, samjhota, or basically what it means, I mean, you are sacrificing something to get something. For example, here you are sacrificing a single class to follow single responsibility principle. Now you have multiple classes, so that's a sacrifice. Now your code base is too big, but it is following single responsibility principle. It is easier to maintain. So kind of a compromise, okay? Where we will get to that. I mean, first we are just learning the principles, when to use the principles, when not to use the principles. All of these things will come up later in design patterns, okay? Cool. One thing for all of you to take home from now. We are done with abstract classes, we are done with these two, but let us see this. Today, yes, Karthikeyan, we will be ending by 11:30 every class, okay? Now, in this class, let us say when we have bird, now we identify something different. That we have a bird class, and obviously the bird has multiple attributes, it has multiple methods, and out of these, one of the method is fly, okay? Cool. So this is a bird class, multiple attributes, multiple methods. One of the abstract method is fly. Okay. But now you get a new feature. What is the new feature? Currently you had only pigeon. Crow, hen, sparrow. Okay, so pigeon, crow, hen, sparrow. You have pigeon, crow, hen, sparrow. So this was the current status. You had these 4 classes, each of them having a fly method. But now you get an interesting situation. What is that interesting situation? You get a bird that is called penguin. Now, what is interesting about penguin other than it looks cute? The interview says there is a new bird that can swim, so I can add a new method swim to abstract class. Ankit, wait for some time, okay? A penguin cannot fly. The problem with penguin is penguin cannot fly. For now, let us only go there, okay? Let us not talk about swim, but penguin cannot fly. Okay, but now because penguin is a bird, will I have to implement the fly method? Yes, because in the bird, fly is abstract. So you have to implement it. Otherwise, the compiler will throw an error. So how will you implement it? What are the options that you have? How will you implement the fly method? Okay, so people are giving multiple answers. Let me note these answers down. The very first answer is people are saying we will leave fly blank. Okay. Second, nothing in the blank. Shriram, I'm going to ignore your correct answer. Your answer is correct, but I'm going to ignore that. Yes, some people are saying we will throw an exception. Okay, the bird cannot fly. Penguin cannot fly. Something like this, okay? Utkarsh, I'm also going to ignore your suggestion because you are correct. I'm only going to take the wrong answers, okay? Okay, Ankit is saying that I will print, or I will basically log that, okay, bird cannot fly. Okay? Any other answer? Any other thing that you think? Make penguin abstract, okay? Karthikeyan, if you make penguin abstract, in that particular case, how will you even create objects of penguin? How will you make objects of penguin? Because penguin is a thing, right? You somehow have to create objects of penguin. How will you do that? Okay, clear, Karthikeyan? Okay, awesome. Now, each of these 3 answers are wrong. Why are each of these 3 answers not the best answers? They are valid answers, but they are not best. Why are they not best? They are not best because of another problem that comes up, which is known as Liskov's substitution principle. This is the L of solid, which stands for Liskov's substitution principle. Okay. Let us just discuss a brief of it. We have 5 minutes. We will discuss the brief of Liskov's substitution principle. What does the principle say? But how we are going to implement that principle in today's problem, we will see that in the next class. Okay, cool. What does Liskov substitution principle say? Liskov substitution principle says objects of child class should be able to be substituted or basically stored in a variable of a parent class without requiring any change in future code, in further code. Let me explain this. It says objects of every child class, objects of any child class, objects of any child class should be able to be placed in a variable of a parent class. What does it mean? It means that, okay, can I do this? Can I say bird B is equal to new penguin, or let's say new pigeon? Can I do this? Is this allowed? Yes, this is allowed. This is allowed due to which property of object-oriented programming? Polymorphism. This is nothing but polymorphism, right? Okay. Now imagine a real software system. Imagine a real software system where I have a variable B. I have a variable B of type bird. Okay. Obviously, after this thing, let us say there is a method, there is a big method, something void do something. Okay. In this do something method, somewhere in my code, I have a variable of type bird. Bird B is equal to new penguin. Okay. Or new pigeon. Okay. Now, obviously, do you all agree that after this line, somewhere down, I will be accessing this variable as well? I might be doing multiple things on this variable, right? I mean, otherwise, why have I even constructed that object? Okay. Probably, let us say here I'm doing b.fly. Somewhere here I'm doing b.fly. My code base. b.fly. Okay. Now, what does Liskov substitution principle say? Liskov substitution principle says that object of any child class of the bird, you should be able to place a new owl here. You should be able to place a new crow here. You should be able to place a new penguin here. Object of any child class should be able to be substituted in a variable of a parent class without requiring change in further code. Okay. Let us say you decided that I will throw an exception for penguin. Now, if I substitute this bird variable via a penguin, do you see I will have to actually make some special checks in the further code here? Will I need to handle special try catch just because of penguin? Yes or no? Yes. That means, is it breaking Liskov substitution principle? Is the Liskov substitution principle breaking? Yes, because for a particular object of a child class. But if try catch is already there, I mean, Rohit, ideally, why should try catch be there? I mean, is a fly method throwing any exception? No. Ideally, a fly method should not be throwing an exception. I mean, okay, so Rohit, it might throw an exception, but it might be some other exception, right? See, if you're calling a fly method on something, don't you expect it to fly? I mean, if someone is telling you that they have a fly method, and when you tell them to fly, they say, I cannot fly. Is this expected? I mean, isn't this a surprising behavior? I mean, if some class, if there is an API that you get, let us say you use a third-party API. In that third-party API, that there is a fly method. So as a developer, what will you assume? That if I call the fly method, the entity will fly? Yes or no? Yes. Now you call the fly method. And what happens? It says, I cannot fly. What will you say? Isn't it that meme situation where you are sitting like, what the hell just happened, right? That is not really expected. Okay. Amit, don't worry. I will explain that. Okay. So what list of substitution principle say? This is going to be the ideal code. The normal code will be there will be an object of bird, and somewhere down I will be calling behaviors on that bird object. Amit, is that clear till here? That okay? In my code base, somewhere I will be creating an object of type bird, and somewhere down the line in the same file I will be using that variable. I will be using some methods on that variable. Amit, is that clear? Okay. Now, Liskov substitution principle says that in the variable of a parent class, so in this particular variable of the parent class bird, you should be able to put an object of any child class. You should be able to put an object of any child class. You should be able to put an object of pigeon, owl, crow, penguin, anything. And regardless of what child object you put there, no specific code change should be required in the further code. Okay, is that making sense? That, for example, I should not say that, oh, because a penguin can also come, so for penguin specifically, I will have to write try catch only for a specific child. That should not be allowed. Okay, here in this particular case, just because of penguin, do I need to change? Because of penguin, does it require a change in the further code? Does it require a change? Yes, it requires a change, right? So that means it is violating Liskov substitution principle. So everyone agreeing that, okay, at least this answer is violating. Is everyone agreeing that the second answer is violating Liskov substitution? After that, we'll go to first and third. Yes, basically Rohit has actually given the best answer of it. Rohit is saying basically no special treatment. There should not be any special treatment for any child. No special treatment for any child might be needed. Okay. Clear, everyone? No special treatment for any child. Okay. Perfect. No. Especially not the last child. Okay. Got it. Now, last two things. But if they're not special, why they are subclass? But if they are not special, why they are subclass? I mean, Utkarsh didn't get your doubt. Should I unmute you? I mean, Jayesh, no, that is not the ideal solution of this. Utkarsh, can I unmute you? Jayesh, we will get to solutions tomorrow. So there I will discuss why your solution will not work. Okay. Today we will not discuss the solution. Today we will just discuss the problem. Okay. Okay, Utkarsh, let me explain this. Let me actually unmute Utkarsh. Hello, Utkarsh, I have unmuted you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
So I'm just asking that like we have a contract from abstract class is like the bird,
Mm-hmm.
but we are creating a specific kind of a bird, like for example a pigeon and a crow, which are having some specific behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
So they are special in a kind, I would say. So I was confused with
They are a
that.
special kind of bird. So you are saying that why are they even extending the bird class, right?
Hmm.
Right. So we will. I mean, this will be also one of the solutions that we will consider, and we will explain in the next class why that solution is also wrong. Okay. But for now, I mean, is a penguin a bird? Penguin is a bird still, right? Yes or no?
Right. So in this context, we don't want to handle any such like whether it's an instance, it can fly or not. Like in a
Correct.
if
So
or
we somehow need to handle that. How we will handle that, we will see the next class. But for
sure.
now, I'm just saying that because penguin is a bird, bird is the very first thing that we will think. We say that, okay, make it a subclass of bird, right?
Right.
But due to that, a problem comes up that a bird has to fly. But penguin is not flying, right? That is
Yeah.
a problem. So now there are multiple solutions that people have to handle this. Three of these solutions are here today, which are going to violate Liskov substitution principle. We will see a few more solutions. For example, the solution that Samrat is saying is actually correct, but we will see that in the next class. Before even Samrat's solution, we will see one more wrong solution, okay, on what not to do. So one of the solutions that we will see is one of the things that you are saying, okay. So wait till the next class, okay.
Okay.
Okay. Rohit, yes, you have found one of the correct points that we'll see in the next class, okay. Anyways, now this you are clear with. Let us if I leave a fly method blank, do you think it is also a violation of Liskov substitution principle? What about leaving fly blank? It can also be. For example, let us say now you call b dot fly. What will you expect? You will expect that the bird is flying. Now let us say in your code base, you have called bird dot fly, and now somehow you see that okay, the bird is not flying. What will you think? If you called a fly method on a bird and now you see that oh, the bird is not flying, what will you think? You will feel that there is some bug in your code base. There is some bug in your code base. This is not a desired behavior. This is not a desired behavior. So because of penguin now, you might need to specially check. You will probably write a special check. If bird is not flying, say some error, right? So you might also need to again do some special checks. Making sense? Yes or no? So that is also a violation of discourse substitution principle. Then if I go to the log, again, you will have to check the log. What did get logged? If the thing that was logged was the bird cannot fly, show some special behavior, right? That, oh, this bird cannot fly, please try again. Something like that. Okay. Okay, Sarik is saying, doesn't it depend upon semantics? We can say it is flying at zero height. I mean, Sarik, that is like playing with words, right? That is not an expected behavior. I mean, assume that Razorpay for a failed payment gave you a success thing. That okay, the payment succeeded, but the success happened because the payment did not complete. That is success for me. Are you going to be happy with this? I mean, Razorpay gives you success even for a failure because, I mean, the task Razorpay's work is done, right? Or Razorpay shows that okay, the payment is completed, but the money is 0 rupees. Is that going to be okay? Not really. Right? Which is not really expected. So not really. Okay. Same for log. You will again have to check the log and probably show different behavior. Okay. Yeah, task failed successfully. It's like a common thing. But these are potential changes. Are they also considered as violation in LSP? Akash, I mean, obviously, if you will do those changes, if you will leave the fly blank, or if you will log, or even if you throw an exception, after catching the exception or after knowing that this is a special case, won't you do some special behavior? Probably you will throw a notification that the bird that you have selected cannot fly. Please choose some another bird. Won't you do something like this? You will do, right? For those birds that cannot fly, you will probably do this. Yes or no? I mean, if someone wants to fly that bird, you will have some special treatment, which is a violation of LSP. Now, ideally, the solution that we want is if someone cannot fly, ideal solution is if someone cannot fly, what should happen? If someone cannot fly, there should be no fly method in them. There should not be fly method in them. Okay. This is the ideal solution. There are multiple ways to achieve this solution. We will discuss the incorrect way and the correct way tomorrow. Okay. So this is all for today's class. What I want you to take as an assignment for today is that think, how can I do this? How can I avoid having fly method in a penguin? Okay. Yes, I mean, there somehow should not be fly method. No one should be able to do penguin.fly somehow. Okay. Think how. I mean, wait, think about it. We will get to the correct solution in the next class. Okay. We will get to the correct solution in the next class. Okay. Reflection and remove method. Let us not be over smart. Okay. Let us try to think sensible solution. No reflection, nothing like that. Okay. But anonymous, after that, what we will do? We will remove the flying bird, but somehow you need to still have flying other birds, right? So we need that there should not be no fly method in penguin, but fly method in everything. No fly method in birds that can't fly. Okay. But fly method in birds that can fly. Okay. Okay. Clear with everyone? So there are multiple solutions. Think about that. Many of you have already given the correct answer, but we will come to that tomorrow. Otherwise, we will be, I mean, many other people might be confused. Okay. If we use interface language. Correct, Arvind. That's correct. Okay. Okay. Anyways, that's all for today. I hope you understood at least the 3 design principles. What is S, what is O, what is L. L is not yet finished. We will be solving L in the next class. In the next class, we will finish I and D as well. And that is how we will be ending solid design principles. And in the next class, we will actually have an assignment where you will be refactoring a code base. That assignment was supposed to be given for today, but because the thing has not been finished yet, so this assignment will be there in the next class. So there will be a code base that will be given to you. It will be violating many of the design principles. You have to refactor that code base and solve the design principles. Okay, awesome. Anand, your solution is one of the potential solutions, but it's the wrong one. Okay, I have started the doubt session. Feel free to leave the session if you have no doubts. Okay. Can abstract inherit another abstract? Yes, Prince. An abstract class can inherit another abstract class. Okay. Awesome. Abstract class can inherit abstract class, Prince. Okay. In fact, that happens often if in the inheriting class, if in the child class you are still not implementing the methods, still not implementing the abstract methods. So you make the child class as well abstract. That's perfectly allowed. Okay, Prince. Awesome. Cool. I think, is there any other question? Okay. There's a question by Anil. We will discuss in doubt session. Child constructor calls to super of parent abstract class. Since instantiation is not allowed for abstract class, how does this super is getting called? Anil, basically the super just initialize the variables that were there of the child class. That's what it does. Because all the variables of child class, all the variables of the parent class are still there in the child class, right? So the constructor of the abstract parent class initialize the variables of the abstract parent class. That's the only thing that it does. Okay. Uh, as per SRP, it means on each level we need to have well-defined scope of action. Correct, Akash. Absolutely correct. For class, I got that it should have SRP, but how it applies for packages? Sanjeev, so let us think about, for example, when we will learn MVC architecture. In MVC architecture, we will say that, okay, there will be a package called models. The only thing that will be there in the models will be models. Similarly, there will be a package called controllers. The only thing that will be there in controllers will be controllers. So that is why one single purpose of the package. Can you please unmute me? Sure, Suhas. Hello, Suhas.
Hi, Naman. Naman, you were saying, so let's say you have interface, right? Let's say class implements an interface. So right now, the super keyword, so which parent constructor does it call in this
There
case?
is only one parent, right? So, the super keyword with the parameters that you pass. So, for example, here, if you will see, this calls the constructor that takes one parameter of type string. So, this constructor. Got it?
So if it's implementing an interface, so here super method calls which parent constructor?
If they are implementing an interface, in that particular case, you don't use super. When you are implementing an interface, you don't have to use any super. Because interface is just a stem. It's nothing more than that. Okay.
But there will
So, for
be a
example, here, if you see, there is an interface called carnivore, right? But in the cat, which was a carnivore, did I have any constructor? Even if you create a constructor for the cat, it doesn't need to call, there is no parent, right? Interface is not extents. You call constructor of a class. You don't call constructor. There is no constructor of an interface, right?
But constructor indirectly, constructor always calls the parent constructor, right? Even though if
Yes,
we
but
don't
but
deploy a super.
constructors are there in the classes or they are in the interfaces. Constructors are used to create objects, correct?
Yes, yes.
Can you create an object of an interface?
No.
Simple. So that is why will there be constructors in an interface? There are no constructors in an interface. Okay. Making
No,
sense to us?
but I'm
Yeah, please.
a bit confused. Like, for example, let's say here, cat is extending mammal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So cat, even let's say a cat has a default constructor in it, mammal
Yes.
as
And if
well
it
as
calls super, it is calling the constructor of mammal.
mammal. That's correct. So
Right, because there is only one class that you can extend. Yes.
even though we don't say superior, and even then we are going to call the parent, right?
Even if you don't write super here,
We'll
if you
be
don't
calling the
write super, if you don't write it super, I had explained it in the first class, it automatically calls the constructor with no parameter of the parent class. Okay. If there is
okay,
no constructor with no parameter in the parent class, then you will have to specifically mention it. Otherwise, it will be a compile time error. Okay.
okay.
Cool. Okay. Akash, do you have a doubt? You had raised your hand. So, are you done?
Yes, then.
Okay.
Thanks.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you. Okay. Awesome. So I think we are done for the day. I have uploaded the code. I have pinned the link in the chat. Please try to think that, okay, how will I solve this particular problem of discourse substitution principle? Okay. This is polymorphism principle. Okay. We are able to put an object of child in a parent class variable because of polymorphism. Okay. Cool. So Akash, now you are done, right? Okay, sure. Let me unmute Akash. Hello.
Am I audible? One second.
Yeah, hi Akash.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, but very slow, very small. I mean,
Yeah,
slow.
yeah, that's okay. I think now it's okay. I just wanted to clarify, Suhas, also, like, if we can think about interface being a parent like this, that it doesn't require constructor because it's a template of behavior.
Correct.
And,
I mean, it's like a
yeah.
stem that, okay, if you are implementing me, you just need to
Mm.
have these, what we say, behaviors. That is what is being told up there.
Correct. Super constructor means a super bracket that is for parents constructor
Constructor.
to initialize the variables basically. So that's applicable only in case of a class, not in case of interface, because interface is only trying to give you a template of behavior that doesn't need any initialization
Correct. I mean, interfaces
directly
don't
at.
even have attributes that you need any kind of initialization. Correct. Makes sense.
So in case of interface, being a super type,
Mhm.
there is no use of
There is no, it
constructors.
doesn't make sense. Yep, correct. Agreed.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks for your time. We had a bigger class, but I hope it was worth your time. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.